Come take a seat. We're going to get started with the presentations. If everybody could come take a seat, we'll get started. There'll be time after the presentations for you to go back and talk to staff.
All right, good evening, everyone. I am so happy that you are here. We are trying to get your attention, and I love that you are so engaged because you know that's my vision and my dream. But we would love for you to make your way over here to this side of the room because we want to start on time and be respectful of your time and also our staff members' times who they started many, many, many hours ago, as I'm sure yours did as well. All right. I'm back to you.
Do you want to do a welcome?
Sure.
Okay. And then we'll get Tony up here to do the first part of the presentation. Oh, you got a mic.
I do. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. I feel that's so strange. I thought my job was just to kind of get everyone over here. But I want to thank you all so much. My name is Mia Hall, Dr. Mia Hall. I am Councilwoman for District 6. I'm sure you already know that because you saw the flyer. Many of you I have met. I have knocked on your door. I have been in your mailbox. I have come to your HOA meeting. Hopefully, you're receiving our newsletters and things of that nature. As I said over there in jest, it really is true. My vision for District 6 is that we are an engaged, thriving community. So we definitely want to see you here. We always want to hear your voice, and we want you to share your opinions and thoughts with us. I always use the phrase, there is a promise of District 6. That's not just something that I say, it's something that I truly believe. And we are a part of, we have a responsibility, if you will, to realize that promise. And so you being here tonight and sharing your thoughts, getting educated on the things that are happening in the city, that is just a step in that direction. And so I do, before I turn it over, I want to say thank you to the staff. And if we could just give them an applause for being here. The staff always does such a wonderful job presenting the information and educating what's going on. I see the comments, I see the emails, and often I think to myself, people are misinformed or they don't know the great things that are happening in our city. And these are the people behind those great things, and there's so much more to come. So, welcome. I may step out a few minutes early because I have some other places to be, believe it or not. But I wanted to be here to welcome you and to thank you and to let you know that you can always reach out to us at District 6 at fortworthtexas.gov, or you can always give us a call at 817-392-8806. We are there for you, and we definitely want to be your partner in making our community better for everyone. So without further ado, I am turning it over. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. Before we get to the 2026 bond program, we do have a short presentation regarding the 2050-2050 comprehensive plan. So before I speak, we do have a short video for you all to look at.
This is our Fort Worth, the place where we grew up.
Where our friends will build dreams and where the choices we make today shape the world we live in tomorrow.
Our city is growing faster than ever, but growth takes smart planning, designing neighborhoods and districts where people can live, work, learn, and play within reach.
It's about thinking long-term, and now's the time to reimagine where we can go next. That's what the 2050 Comprehensive Plan is all about, a vision and a plan for how we grow, connect, and thrive over the next 25 years.
Think of this as a big picture way to plan. Instead of focusing on one property at a time, we look at how entire neighborhoods, streets, and districts fit together, how homes link to schools and work sites, and how trails lead to parks and community centers.
I'm ready! Imagine turning an empty lot into a playground.
Imagine turning an empty lot into a new home or a business right down the street.
We can create active neighborhood centers where people meet up with family and friends, connected by green corridors, trails, and efficient transit that link every corner of our city. This kind of planning keeps each area's character intact while giving every neighborhood a chance to grow in a way that fits its residents.
Our future can be a place with even more great jobs and innovative companies, with advanced employment and higher education centers.
Vibrant places, great neighborhoods, a city we're all proud to call home. That's the future the comprehensive plan helps guide for all of us.
So what will Fort Worth look like when I grow up?
Those decisions start now, and they start with you. Your voice, your ideas, your priorities, they shape the goals and policies that will guide our future.
This is your chance to help decide how land is used, how growth happens, and how we enhance the character of our neighborhoods.
Join the conversation.
Share ideas.
And help us reimagine Fort Worth.
This is our chance to make Fort Worth a better place with fun.
I said this the other day, but that kid is a really tough act to follow. But it really shows that video. I love the video because it really shows who the plan is for. The 2050 Comp Plan is not just for you and me, the people in the room right now, but it's for our kids, our grandkids, and even our great-grandkids. It's really a long-range, forward-thinking plan over the next 2.5 decades. It's a summary of the goals, objectives, policies, and strategies that'll act as Fort Worth's, as the video said, official guide for deciding on growth and development across the city, ultimately allowing the city to work alongside the community in developing strong neighborhoods, safe neighborhoods, and a strong, resilient economy, particularly as we continue to grow into the 10th largest, 9th largest, 8th largest city in the whole country. So where are we now? In 2024, we worked with the community to develop an emerging vision of the city of Fort Worth. We actually have a preliminary summary report on our website, which I'm going to get to in a second, that details all that information that we gathered. And as we're in 2025, moving into 2026 and into ultimate adoption in 2027, we're really trying to hone in on that vision and developing the goals, strategies, and actions that'll actually turn that vision into a reality, into an actionable, comprehensive plan. And we're doing so through expert consultation. We're working with departments across the city. And most importantly, we are working with the community throughout this entire process. And we're doing so through pop-up events, public meetings, and through online engagement resources. And with that, our primary resource for y'all is going to be Connect Fort Worth. That's connectfw.com/comprehensive-plan. You can get to it through this QR code. We'll have it up at the end of the presentation as well. On there, you're going to have general information about the comprehensive plan. You'll have a timeline of events, general phases, where we are in the process. Again, we'll be publishing any interim reports or analyses that we do throughout the process. Again, we have a preliminary engagement report from 2024 on there, so you can see what the community has said already. And most importantly for us right now, we have an interactive survey that's open until mid-January. We have links for that as well over here on our boards, but the survey is really meant to gauge overall priorities, your priorities for the city of Fort Worth, again, over the next 2.5 decades and beyond. So truly long-range planning. We also want to hear from you regarding any potential challenges or opportunities that may exist within Fort Worth over the next 2.5 decades related to growth, development, anything like that. And then there's also a really interesting interactive map section of the interactive survey where you can actually draw in areas of town and talk about any potential development or redevelopment you think would be interesting to see there. So other than this, we do have the team. Part of the team is here. I have Estella Alvarez-Reynoso, senior planner on the comp long-range planning team, Eric Fladiger, our assistant director. And I'm not sure if I introduced myself. My name is Tony Harold. I am the planning manager for the team. We would love to talk to you about the comp plan, long-range planning in general at the city. And we also have on Connect Fort Worth our email address. If you have any questions at any time, we look at that email address every day. So happy to stay in touch. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to April Rose with the 2026 bond.
All right, thank you, Tony. And similar to the comprehensive plan, we also have a very short video related to the 2026 bond election. And here we are to kick it off.
In the 2050 comprehensive plan, the city of Fort Worth is looking far ahead, setting an ambitious vision for how our city will grow and thrive in the decades to come. But bringing that big picture vision to life starts with real short-term action. That's where the 2026 bond comes in. Every 4 years, Fort Worth voters have the chance to shape the city's future through a bond election, a way of funding essential public works projects. For 2026, the city is developing an $840 million bond package focused on the foundations that keep Fort Worth moving forward. Out of the city's 67-cent tax rate, almost 15 cents go toward paying off debt like bonds. The proposed bond package fits within that amount, so your tax rate won't go up. Fixing every identified need across the city would cost billions, so we have to be strategic. That means making fiscally responsible decisions that deliver the biggest impact with the dollars available. Using data, master plans, and community priorities, city staff identify projects that can leverage external funding partnerships and balance needs across every part of Fort Worth. More than 60% of the proposed bond package focuses on streets and mobility, designing and constructing major roadways and intersections, upgrading and repairing bridges, reconstructing neighborhood streets, and improving pedestrian safety. The proposed transportation projects were chosen to advance the priorities identified in the city's master transportation plan. Another 22% invests in parks and open space, expanding recreation and trails for our growing population, guided by the city's new parks, recreation, open space, and public realm master plan. And the remaining funds support essential community needs that strengthen neighborhoods across Fort Worth, like public safety, animal care, library upgrades, and affordable single-family housing. These projects aren't chosen lightly. They're shaped by data, careful planning, and most importantly, your feedback. Help build our future. Use our interactive Balancing Act tool to explore the proposed projects and share your input on what projects should be prioritized. You and your neighbors will vote on the bond projects in May 2026. The comprehensive plan sets our long-term vision. The bond program helps make it happen.
All right. Well, if we haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name is April Rose Escamillo with the City of Fort Worth as part of the Fort Worth Lab team. And so there is a great deal of information within that video, but 3 items I really like to point out is 1, the existing bond, the 2026 proposed bond as it's proposed, is set to fit within your existing tax rate, meaning it will not impact your taxes from this perspective because of the bond capacity at $840 million. The second item is that so many of the various projects that you hear about today has been informed through a series of plans that our various departments have pulled together that helped rank specific projects, also informed with working with City Council. And then finally, moving forward is really, we're in here today to really gain your engagement, to be able to hear back the comments, feedback, because overall the project list is not entirely baked. This isn't the final list from this perspective, but we are close to that point where we really put ourselves forward with this particular project list to really hear from your feedback. And if you ever want to dive into any of the specifics, where it's located, all of our various staff is here to really help guide that discussion as well. So let's go and kick off the 2026 bond program at $840 million. You can see here that there are various propositions as shown on the slide. So with proposition for streets and mobility, as mentioned in the video, it's about 60.9% of the overall bond program. We have parks and open space at 22%, and then the remaining propositions as shown to make up the total $840 million. Now, $840 million, how exactly did we get there? Well, the reality is that this process started back in October 2024. And the actual infrastructure need, when we asked and we queued our various departments for public infrastructure, is $2.7 billion. So our staff and our city council and our leadership had some work to do when we had to really see, okay, what exactly can we fit within that $840 million amount? And you'll go and see that list right now. We'll go ahead and break that down. But something else I'd also like to point out related to all of these propositions is that this also includes public art funding. So per city council, per ordinance that city council has adopted, 1% of the streets and mobility proposition will go towards public art funding, and 2% for all of the other propositions. So that will be some number just to also keep in the back of your mind whenever I kind of walk through what the total, each one of these various proposition packages are set for as proposed. Something else is on each one of these slides, we do have exhibits that are shown with quite a bit of line work, quite a bit of icons. If you're sitting in the back, it's a little difficult to read. I know I see some folks kind of squinting out there, but we encourage you to actually walk over to all of our various exhibits. We actually have these printed out for you. So if you really want to look at a specific area, whether that's in your neighborhood or your BFF that's located across the city, you can go ahead and see exactly what's going on, take photos, share it across the social media, but that is also available for you. So to move forward, we have streets and mobility proposition at $511.5 million. So all of this includes expanding your major roadways at $199.1 million, rebuilding your minor roadways at $129.2 million. And so you can consider these your neighborhood streets that we've all kind of come to become familiar with previous bond programs. We also have new and upgrading traffic signals at $44.6 million, upgrading intersections at $40.9 million, as well as bridge safety and connections at $40.7 million. I love to pause at this particular portion. And why is that? Well, civil engineering background, one of my main drivers that we always talk about within the industry is the aging infrastructure and the need to be able to invest in that aging infrastructure to make sure that our residents are safe, putting safety at the forefront in various categories, in this case, bridge safety, in which we're able to utilize some of that $40.7 million to be able to, again, out of that $2.7 billion infrastructure need, start to continuously chip away at the very specific projects from that perspective. Something else is related to leveraging dollars. So we are fortunate to live in the North Texas area in which we have a great amount of regional partners. Who are they? Well, we have the North Central Texas Council of Governments. We have TxDOT, and we also have federal dollar opportunities through federal programs in which we're able to utilize dollars from our bond to be able to really stretch and be able to build those complex projects. So what does that look like? Well, sometimes within these leveraging types of projects, we kind of do an 80-20, meaning the city can put in 20% of local dollars for an 80% return from regional partners. And a couple of these projects that we've been able to identify, we've worked with our regional partners to basically say, okay, how about this project? How about that one? So that actually helped rank and elevate specific projects. Again, from our perspective, we really want to make as many projects happen and possible, and we're able to do that by leveraging dollars. Next is sidewalk and school safety at $28.5 million. As well as Vision Zero projects at $12.3 million. So the difference between the two, well, with sidewalks and school safety, that is really looking at our existing sidewalks that need the repair that's necessary within specific areas, and that is where we'll tap into that $28.5 million amount. The Vision Zero projects is looking at a specific corridor and seeing where exactly can we implement some of the safety features to try to really bring down the number of fatalities from that perspective related to traffic incidents. But this goes back to a Vision Zero safety action plan that City Council adopted back in August. And that is readily available online to really help look into that. But it kind of acts as a North Star so that when our staff works in terms of designing, and working with consultants, and working with implementation, we can really prioritize specific safety measures within those projects. We also have railroad crossings at $6 million and streetlights at $5.2 million. Again, the exhibit is here, a little difficult to read, but it's actually located in the far right corner over there. Patricia, if you want to raise your hand, there we go. So it's located over there, and definitely our team, if you haven't caught on yet, each one of the propositions that we have here today, we have staff readily available to really help walk through that. So next is Parks and Open Space Proposition, and this is at 185.1 million. And this includes upgrading metropolitan community parks at 57.5 million. You can think of Gateway Park, right? Something that's citywide. You can also look at rebuilding the Atatiana Carr Jefferson Community Center at Hillside for 30 million. The open space land conservation at 25 million. For open space land conservation, if you're not too familiar with that, that goes back to our open space like initiative. It's really understanding and trying to balance the idea and also some of the reality that we're seeing in that City of Fort Worth is growing, right? There is quite a bit of development that is coming in, but there is that added prioritization from also our leadership, City Council, in terms of saying, okay, as we grow, are we retaining some of that natural land? And that is where we're able to utilize this 25 million to be able to retain natural land for years and generations to come so that we can continue to still have that green space throughout the City of Fort Worth as we grow. Aquatic centers at 22 million. The Botanic Garden upgrades at 10.5 million. The Water Garden upgrades at 10 million. If you've had the chance to go to downtown, bring your friends, your family, people have come from out of state, come on over to the convention center area. That would go invest in that specific area with the Water Gardens at 10 million. And we also have the Fort Worth Zoo with related infrastructure improvements at 4 million. Next is the Public Library Proposition at 14.6 million. So this includes the relocation of the Fort Worth History Center, the renovation of the Southwest Regional Library, and the renovation of Diamond Hill Jarvis Library. The renovation projects are related to two of our facilities that were identified in the library master plan through a facility assessment, in really being that next level of projects that would be next on the list, because they're kind of reaching that 40-year mark, and it's been identified as being, that specific next on the list to be able to invest in from that perspective. So next is affordable single-family housing proposition at 5 million. Now, earlier I spoke about leveraging dollars, right? We want to be able to put some money in and get something in return to really make our dollar stretch. And this particular proposition also fits into that ethos. So that 5 million is kind of defined as such. So 1 million would go towards buying vacant or blighted properties, and the other 4 million would be used to also help leverage dollars from the development community. So in other words, the city would use that 4 million to cover construction of infrastructure costs. This is public infrastructure costs like sidewalks, water and sewer impact fees, potentially, some service lines, a lot of the stuff that the city, it's city-based infrastructure, to help develop that affordable single-family, single-owner occupied housing within the city. Next is the public safety proposition at 63.9 million. This includes the new Forest Station 46 in Southwest Fort Worth at 19.4 million, rebuilding of the Fire Station 40 in Northwest Fort Worth, 15 million, as well as the new 911 call center at 28.3 million. Now, the new 911 call center would actually be part of the existing, if you've ever go to downtown, you may see this thing called the Zipper Building, and that is located in this particular photo here in the bottom left-hand corner. So we would utilize the existing Zipper Building to help renovate it so that we can house so many of our services, bring it all together under one roof. And that includes fire, that includes police, that includes emergency services, and really bring state-of-the-art technology. We know that technology is changing almost daily, and our staff has started working as far as what type of technology do we need to kind of bring together to really help optimize our level of service for all of our residents across the city of Fort Worth. And so that is where that 28.3 million would be utilized. Next is the animal shelter proposition at 59.9 million. And this includes building the new animal control shelter with increased space. It's intended to replace the current Chuck and Brenda Silcox animal shelter. So the existing animal shelter was built in 1998. It's since been expanded 3 times, where we've kind of already taken up that space within that particular lot. And as I mentioned, 1998, and if you go to the 2000 census, the city of Fort Worth, we were at 560,000 people. We have almost since doubled. And some of the facts is that for every 1,000 people that move to the city of Fort Worth, there's about 25 to 35 animals that enter the animal welfare system. And so, from that perspective, really taking into account that this would be an opportunity to utilize this 2026 bond program to be able to basically make this one-time capital improvement or capital investment to take us through the next couple of decades. And really wanted to talk, really call back some of the bond program overall history. So if you've been here for a hot second, you may recall that the 2018 bond at $400 million was located all across these various areas in Fort Worth. You could see where all the projects, all the various icons, whether that was at the time parks projects with the green stars, the red major roadways, the blue, other projects that were ended up designed, and then you can also see some minor roadways with that neighborhood streets. Well, in 2022, that bond program was at $560 million, and so you'll see that the 2018 has been grayed back. And you can also see that other additional projects that ended up coming, to fruition through that program. And then now you can see where we are proposing the 2026 bond program at $840 million, where it's all located, and kind of walking through some of those other images that we've shown. So you may also have questions on where exactly, where are we at in status of the projects? Well, this is really taking into account that some of these projects do take some time to get through design, to get through right-of-way acquisition, and then finally construction can occur. And so some projects, they could be done within that 4-year cycle, while others, they start to go into that full 6-year cycle because sometimes we have some railroad permits or we have some federal environmental things that we have to get through where it takes the full 4 years. And then finally, at that 4-year mark, we can enter into construction. So that's why you'll still sometimes hear about 2022 bond program projects still heading into construction. And that's because that's just kind of the cycle, the life cycle that we have to kind of balance overall. So with that being said, as I mentioned earlier, not all the projects are fully baked. There are potential for project swaps. Councilwoman Hall was talking about various projects, really getting your input. Well, here are some of the projects. These aren't all the projects. In fact, you may have a specific project that you really want to see on the list, and we really like to get that feedback. But also keeping in mind that for every project, so that you wanted to add one in, and I'm just going to pick one random one here, the new Far West Branch Library at an estimated cost of $20 million, well, you'd have to identify that same type of, not the same type of project, but the same dollar amount to remove from either that same proposition or another proposition to really keep within that $840 million bond capacity. So that's a lot of, things to keep track of, right? Well, our team has actually created something great called the Balancing Act activity. So if you take out your phone, we have a QR code here that it will take you to the Balancing Act. It's also located if you go to www.connectfw, Fort Worth, right, fw.com, and that Balancing Act walks you through all the various propositions where you can actually select or unselect specific projects. You can provide comments for each one of the propositions. I'd really like to see this, or I'm in support of XYZ. You can provide all of those comments all the way through. And the great thing is that once you hit submit, that information comes to our team. We aggregate that data so that we can help inform council of all the various engagement that we've received so far and coming through all the various council districts so that we can all work together towards making that final list. So we are here today when it comes to community engagement events. This is fall 2025. We'll be finalizing the list towards the end of this year. Council will then call the election in the January-February timeframe next year in 2026, and then we will return back to all of our council districts to educate and to show what that final list looks like, so that when bond election comes around on May 2nd, 2026, you can go ahead and make your choice on the bond when it comes to that voting aspect. So all this to say is we have this particular event is live streamed, and we have a couple of microphones. So we're going to go and open this up for questions. And as much as I would love to answer all of your questions, we have great individuals all over here that we'll be handing off microphones to and so forth as well to help answer your questions. So does anyone have any comments or questions? One?
So at the beginning of your
microphone, real quick.
Absolutely. At the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned the arts as being a percentage in each one of the departments. But yet, when you did the second slide, you listed each department and how much what projects they're working on, but you didn't include anything on the arts. I do understand the arts as far as being an economic development, but I was just wondering why you didn't create an actual line for the amount on the arts on your presentation.
Yeah, we could certainly provide that breakdown. It was just more of an overall, like this is the percentage that you may not see like baked in and shown in each one of the slides. But the overall public art amount is at about 10 point some odd million overall. And I can definitely provide that breakdown per proposition for you after this. But it is included as we're preparing for each one of these propositions. Okay, great question. Yes.
Hi, I have two for now.
That's all right.
One of them is when you did the one where the bond, you went from 2018, 2022, 2026. One of the roadways is being done again, and I remember you saying that it might take longer. So my question is, do we reallocate funds for that? Like if it's just taking longer, wouldn't you just use the funds that were already approved for the previous bond? Why does that same infrastructure have to be included in the next bond if it's just time that we need?
Yeah, so there are, we'll go and touch base on what specific one. So I'd love to touch base with Transportation Public Works on what specific project that is. But there are some projects in which we're able to utilize funds within a bond to help basically get the project ready for construction. So we do all of the design within that time frame. And as I mentioned earlier, sometimes we have like federal requirements. Sometimes we have like railroad permits. And that is a kind of it's also that balance where we understand that to get through all of that, it will take a 4-year process. And so it's basically getting a lot of these projects shelf ready and shovel ready so that in the following bond cycle, we're able to actually begin construction right off the bat with fully designed plans from that perspective. So as far as what specific project, I'd love to follow up with you on that so that we can either also confirm that that was the intent of that specific segment. But yeah, we have TPW that will follow up on that.
Okay, just so we're clear, you're saying that sometimes when bonds are approved, it's just to prepare to do the construction and not actually do the construction?
It is for some projects, and Patricia, if you're available, yeah, she can also speak more on this one.
Yes, once a bond amount is set aside for a project, it is set aside for that project. So we don't go back and spend that money on something else. We cannot. But sometimes we will have a project on the bond and it'll say on it, design only. In fact, there are, I think, 3 arterials on the 2022 bond that were design only that are now on the 2026 bond for construction. And I think there's 3 more arterials on the proposed 2026 bond as design only. But they are noted that way on the bond so that you will know when you look at it what you're voting for. Does that help?
Yes. And then my other question was, you mentioned single owner affordable housing. So my understanding that when it's affordable housing, that LLCs can't come and buy those. It is owned only by single owners. But when it's a residential home, anybody can purchase. I just want to be clear on that because you specified single owner. So I thought that was important. That's what I learned in college.
Absolutely. Great listening skills. And Casey is our Director of Neighborhood Services. Casey?
Yes. So we are intending for it to be for people who own the property actually live in the property. So what we want to avoid is somebody using it for rental housing or large corporations buying it. And so when she says owner occupied single family, that's what we're talking about.
So we can regulate that. My question was though, we can regulate that with only affordable housing and not
regular
residential?
housing.
Yeah.
So there are things, and I'm not an expert on that, but there are other things that we can do as a city as it relates to regulating or addressing rental housing. But as it relates to this bond proposition, we would be only addressing the affordable housing.
I just want to make sure that's something that can be done. Like you can, for affordable housing, you can say this has to be owner occupied.
Correct. And we do that currently through our Housing Finance Corporation. We sometimes sell lots to developers to buy housing. And so as part of that contract, we do stipulate that the home has to be occupied by a person and not like a corporation.
Okay. That sounds like now you're saying the developer can buy it as an LLC as long as they rent it to a person, which would be the only type.
Or they would have to sell it. They would have to sell it, not rent. They can't use it for rental purposes.
Okay, so you're saying the developer would buy it and then.
Or there, so for this bond proposition, yes. So for example, lots. So we have a $1 million that would be designated to buy lots. And so for those lots, we would then sell it to a developer who would actually build a home. And so once they finish constructing the home, then the contract would require them to sell it to either an individual or a family who would occupy that home.
And then you guys regulate that.
Correct. So yes, so our department would be, so for example, now for the lots that we have, we do go back and monitor and make sure that they are using it for single family purposes. And then if they are not, then the contract usually has some things that we can do to address that.
Okay.
Did you have a question?
I was just asking who regulates that, because I know I live in the Glenwick community and a lot of LLCs are coming and buying up, and I'm on the board, and we say there's only like 30% or 25 to 30% that can come in there, but it's obvious there's more than that. So I'm just saying, and I'm not saying that was development in your bond package either, but just trying to say, how do we regulate that? So we really know.
Casey.
As it relates to the overall regulation of rental housing, that's a much larger discussion, much larger involvement from different departments that are involved in that. But as it relates to affordable housing that we put money in either through the federal grants or city funds, then the city helps monitor those homes and properties.
We have a question over here, and then we'll head over to the back. Oh, a comment. Okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Shelly Torres. I'm part of GPAC, Gateway Park Action Coalition, just asking your support for the Gateway Park vote. It's our little central park. I'm also a 25-year retiree, City of Fort Worth, and I'm excited to see everybody here for the bond program. And shout out to co-compliance. And I'm just here to, get your support, come out and vote, and let Gateway Park reach its potential. Thank you.
Back there.
Thank you very much. My name is Tanya Carter. I'm a resident of Lake Como, Fort Worth, District 6. Okay, I may show my ignorance just a little bit, but just please be patient with me. As it relates to the free land space with the parks, using the land for nature reserve, or trying to preserve some natural space in the midst of revitalization and the 50-year comprehensive plan. My question is, because a big chunk of that money is going towards the park and this free land space, okay? So what are the determining factors of deciding the free land space? Is the free land space existing property already belonging to the city of Fort Worth. If gas or oil is found underneath the free land space in the nature reserve, where does those royalties go to? Because my question is based on disenfranchised neighborhoods like Como that aren't receiving their monies as far as natural resources are concerned, and they don't know how to go about, getting those monies by researching the Railroad Commission and stuff. I'm nervous, but I just want to know what are the determining factors for this free land space, so-called natural reserves, What is the determining factor? What is it based on? Is it a locality, or is it the amount of, is it trying to take away from disenfranchised neighborhoods in lieu of, holding out for 50 years down the line for the development of the city, hoping that the original inhabitants of the black and brown, predominantly historically neighborhoods would have died off or, lost their property to foreclosures, and then the mineral rights go to the city. So that's my question. Yeah. Are you following me?
Great question.
There's a lot in there.
Is this working? I might be able to help you.
Yes.
So, my name is Allison Docker. I manage the Open Space Program, and so to answer some of your questions, the Open Space Program is focused on acquiring natural lands citywide. It's a citywide effort, and so we look throughout the whole city of Fort Worth. We look for properties that are ecologically intact, and we look in very urban areas and very, kind of on the edges of the city as well. We have developed, in partnership with the Trust for Public Land, a GIS mapping tool that helps us prioritize properties throughout the city. And we have an interdepartmental group that meets every other week to talk about potential acquisitions. We had a bond proposition in the last bond that gave us $15 million to be able to acquire, and there was also a one-time allocation from another city fund. We've been able to acquire about 700 acres. We're at about 600 now. By the end of the year, we'll be at 700. And the purpose is really to have access to nature for all residents of the city of Fort Worth throughout the city of Fort Worth. I would love to get open space in each district and throughout the city. And so I can show you some maps where we have acquired property and where we're looking to acquire property. It is a little bit limited in the fact that, we can prioritize land all day, but if the property owner doesn't want to sell it, we're not able to, force them to sell. So we have to find willing property owners. We also have to find willing property owners that are looking to sell at a reasonable price, because land in Fort Worth right now is extremely expensive. And so there's some areas that we're not even able to buy in. But I will say that urban areas with little pieces of open space still available are highly prioritized by us, because we want urban neighborhoods to be able to have access to nature too, not just the suburban areas. And to your question about mineral rights.
If it was landlocks on it, people then lost the land to foreclosures or whatever.
No, this is not a program focused on anything like that. It's properties that have not been developed that are still in their natural state. And so for your question on like mineral rights, a lot of times the mineral rights, we won't be able to buy that. I mean, that's already that's kind of out of my wheelhouse in terms of property, but that's not something that we have. We don't have the oil and gas rights to those properties. We have the ability to manage the land and program the land, but that's it.
Okay, so it's private property.
Well, it'll be public property, but the city won't have the mineral rights to it. Because the property owners that have it now are not going to sell those mineral rights. And we wouldn't be able to afford them anyway. So does that answer your question? Yeah, come visit me. I've got some information over there and I can share more. Thank you. Yeah, sure.
All right, thank you, Allison. Yeah. Appreciate it. Okay, and then we had a question over here, and then a gentleman in the back.
Hello, my name is Peter Irvin. I'm a board member for the Pointer Crossing HOA. I've got 3 things I'd like to talk about. The first one is I noticed that in the list of projects we have for District 6, there are no community centers or anything that would otherwise keep the teenagers occupied. I have an interesting story. Just a week ago, I heard shattering or rattling noises on my garage door, and it turns out that there was children, I guess 16, 17-year-olds, shooting airsoft guns, little pellet guns in the neighborhood and concealing themselves behind cars. And we live in Texas. I'd rather the children have activities presented for them instead of them potentially being shot in someone's driveway, right? And so I think that's something we really, really need to focus on. So can we please allocate some funds for teenager activities, community centers, things like that?
Yeah, so thank you for that comment related to community centers. Our staff did prioritize all the various projects that were placed on our list related to community centers. And Dave Lewis, our Director of Parks and Recreation, can expand.
Yes. Thank you very much for the question. Along with pools, community centers are probably the top question that we get a lot of questions about. One thing we're doing right now is we are in the midst of a community center master plan where we'll truly understand the community need and where those are most strategically located. As you see, we do have one community center renovation in there at about $30 million. It's tough to get more than one into a bond package. We also look not only citywide, but we also look back over the last few bonds to really prioritize. And District 6 has recently had Como Community Center in a bond program. It's also had Chisholm Trail Community Center bond program. So really trying to spread it out, but we'll have a lot more information once the community center master plan is completed, because it may be that Council District 6 is another high priority location for more of those activities.
Yes, I just had to write my note. My second one is my wife is very passionate about food and making sure people have groceries they can afford. Is the city planning on maybe sponsoring community gardens or even, dare I say, community grocery stores to provide affordable food for people? Because I live in sort of a food desert. The nearest grocery store is a mile and a half away. And yes, while people do drive, it's not everyone can drive. So we need more options closer to home and things that people can actually afford to buy.
Yeah, so I know the intent with right now the 2026 bond as it's proposed is related to the hard capital infrastructure assets from a public infrastructure asset standpoint, but there are also some policy discussions that can be expanded, that can be definitely vocalized with your council member to further that, to further your comment and to also further research from that sense.
Okay, thank you. My final comment is a follow-up on hers. So my neighborhood is overrun with HOAs. 7 houses in a row east of mine are owned by a company. I would like to know who specifically at the city or the county I can speak with about making sure that this is being regulated properly in my neighborhood.
Yeah, so that will go ahead and move into policy. And we do have Jess here, who's our assistant city manager, that can expand.
Yes, Jessica McCachran, Assistant City Manager, and I work with Development Services. So let's visit offline. Rental regulations are a massive undertaking, and some cities have them, but they're pretty limited. We do not have them right now that would affect what you're talking about, but I'm happy to talk offline about options.
Okay. All right, but great questions, and we have some plan of actions from this. All right, sir. Oh, gentleman with the white shirt, and then the gentleman in the tan.
How you doing? Jamal Williams. I work for Commissioner Roderick Miles. And my question is on the bond packages, how does it break down per council, the amount that's going, the amount per council for bond package. So like it's 840, so they're like 10 and 6. You know, how have y'all done a breakdown on that or analysis of what that looks like? So that's one of the questions. And the second one, I noticed you talked about the vacant properties, committing $5 million to that. Could you talk about how you got to that number, and then based on how many like vacant property or developments are actually in the city of Fort Worth? Because in my mind, that number seems a little low.
Yeah, I'll speak on the first, and then Casey will go and speak on the second. But the first, as far as the overall projects, we really did approach the 2026 bond program holistically all the way through citywide, taking into account, as Dave mentioned, various projects that may have existed in previous bond cycles, seeing and then also prioritizing various projects with master planning and also existing data. So a lot of the rank-based projects were data-driven from that perspective as far as why they were selected. And then we also worked through an iterative process in working with City Council and our leadership to really finalize that list as it stands today with what's being proposed. So there's quite a bit of information that really helped feed into that, from really taking in that $2.6 billion infrastructure need down to $840 million. We do have we can provide you what is available to the districts, and I'll go ahead and share that with you as well. But the intent, again, with the 2026 bond program was citywide, holistically, and really getting that input from each city council member.
I think that'd be a great data point for the community. I'll just say
Sorry.
Pretty great data point of thinking about over the last 2 to 3 bond packages, how much has been allocated per district, so people can kind of see, you know, if it's been equitable or how they've looked at and where the projects are going and what the focus is at. So then as you kind of look and the community can get feedback and analysis on the projects, they can see where the additional needs can come from.
Yeah, and you did bring up a great point. So on www.connectfw.com, it will connect you to the bond story map. And on that bond story map, you can see sort of like there's a slider tool where you can see over time with the exhibits. But there's also an interactive GIS, GIS map, GIS website, where you can actually toggle sort of like, hey, if I wanted to see how much was in 2018 only or 2022, it actually allows you to see all the various projects and their dollar amounts as well. So that data is readily available from that perspective. Yep. Cool. And then the gentleman with the tan shirt had his hand up, and then we'll.
I was going to answer
I'm so
the
sorry.
second
We
part.
have a second question. I just got caught up with mine. Casey, please.
Sure. So the question in terms of the $5 million not being enough, and actually in terms of the amount that we would be using to buy vacant land, it would be $1 million of the $4 million. As far as it not being enough, that's exactly the kind of feedback that we would like to hear from you all. They've identified some ways that you can provide your feedback. This is the very first time that the City of Fort Worth has an affordable housing bond proposition. So part of the reason for the amount is just trying to gauge support among the residents for a proposition like this. The other reason that kind of helped factor into the amount is all of the other needs that are in the city. In the video, they mentioned that if we funded everything, it would be in the billions of dollars. And so there comes in a time where we have to kind of cut some items and rank what we're going to include in the bond program. But if you're interested in a higher amounts, you can share that with your council member and then also use these opportunities here to provide that information.
Thank you, Casey. Gentleman in the tan shirt.
Yeah, my name is Chris Youngs. I live up the road in Chisholm Trail Ranch, and I noticed you had 3 years of bonds, or 3 elections worth of bonds. I think 18 was 400, 22 was 560. This year is 840, and almost 61% of that money is for repair or roads. My question is in previous bond elections, is that a similar percentage? And just a general question, are you gaining headway on fixing roads, or are we falling farther behind? Because it seems like every time I go down Summer Creek, for every pothole or hole that's been repaired, there's 2 new ones. So I'm just...
Great question. And overall, we As the bond is proposed, we definitely tried to align with previous bond cycles in terms of the percentage. So streets and mobility very much mirrors closely to previous bond cycles. And then I have our Assistant Director for Capital Delivery, Patricia, to expand on the roadway.
Hi, Patricia Wadsack. So yes, like April said, we have been the lion's share of the bonds in past years, averaging 60 or so percent. I don't have the detailed numbers. But then as far as roadways overall, we have multiple funding sources. The bonds are what we use for the large repairs, the new streets that we can fund over a 30-year cycle. We also have a program called PAYGO, which comes from our annual budget that we use to maintain the streets. And then we have city staff that fix a lot of the potholes. We are not able to keep up, quite frankly. We normally have a program. We're in the midst right now of gathering feedback from the public about interest in a street maintenance fee, because every year we are about 60 million short of what we would need to maintain the streets in the city of Fort Worth. But we are doing a lot to try to do as the most we can with the money we have. 60.
All right. Thank you, Patricia. Okay, we have a few more minutes to take on maybe one or two more questions. And so we have comment. Yep.
Comment. My name is Kristen Morrison, a TCU grad, educator, and volunteer in foster with the Fort Worth Animal Care and Control Shelter since 2012. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about why a new animal shelter is not just about animals. It's about people, neighborhoods, and community well-being. Each year, 20,000 animals come through our city's shelter. The staff and volunteers show up with full commitment every day, but the building is outdated, overcrowded, and stretched far beyond what it was designed for. A modern facility would make Fort Worth safer. Fewer stray animals on our streets means fewer bites, fewer car accidents, and less strain on emergency services. It would strengthen families by providing a trusted place to turn when a pet is lost, found, or in crisis. And it would protect public health, preventing illness through an updated ventilation system inside the shelter and stronger disease control across our neighborhoods. There are no outside funds for this. This bond is the only way forward. It's an investment in safety, health, and compassion, the very values that define our city. Fort Worth is growing fast. It's time our shelter reflected the kind of community we truly are, one that takes care of both of its people and its animals. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And we have one more question or comment up here.
I just wanted to mention, you mentioned a park. Which park is this? Where is it located? Okay. Okay. I wanted to hear that because I wanted to see where this park was, because District 6 is having a few issues with parks. I wanted to first make a statement. I hear I want to make it very clear that I think a lot of us want you all to know that we understand that this is a citywide thing, but you're in District 6 and we have questions about District 6, because when we look at those maps, statistically, we're not seeing the same investment over time. I know this gentleman mentioned that Chisholm Trail was just built as a community center, but what data did you do to know that this was going to be large enough? It's not large enough for the community that was here when it was built, let alone how it's grown since then. So our frustration is we keep investing homes and families and things down here, but nothing else. No close grocery stores. You want to do affordable housing, but nothing else is affordable. You're bringing families in that aren't going to be able to contribute to the infrastructure. So where else can we vocalize? We see this stuff that you're presenting for the city, but it doesn't feel reflective of the entire city, which is why he asked about where we're able to see how statistically the money has been allocated for districts. So I want to ask, since we keep being referred back to this is a citywide thing, but we're asking about District 6 because this was a District 6 bond meeting. How can we advocate for us to be a higher priority in a bond? And lastly, because I know this is my last question, she mentioned that we can't keep up with the infrastructure. So when you're planning and developing and you know that you're bringing 1,500 homes to an area, it would only make sense for the people getting paid the big bucks to say, we probably need to fix these roads because we approved these 1,500 homes to come here. So we know that the roads are going to need to increase beforehand. And then with the fixing of the roads, is there any other material besides Oreo crumbs we can use to fix the potholes and things like that so we don't have to be consistently behind in fixing roads?
No, great question and very detailed. So I think there's a couple of various components to your question. So I'll touch base on some, and then I'll also hand off to Capital Delivery with TPW if they want to add anything else in addition to. But for one is the city, from a 2026 bond perspective, the bond is not the only tool in the toolbox when it comes to infrastructure. As Patricia mentioned before, from a maintenance standpoint, say that there are specific maintenance issues when it comes to existing roadway. We're able to use pay-as-you-go dollars, and that is, you'll see it as pay-go dollars, to be able to assist with the maintenance of streets that may have deteriorating pavement construction or pavement index, right? So that's one. The second is even when as it's related to growth and new growth. So the city does have something called impact fees, in which we utilize that as another tool to have growth pay for growth, in which we're able to leverage impact fee dollars to really go in and be able to build specific roadways. We also have CFAs, and that is like agreements that we have in place with developers as well as other entities, so that they can build a specific roadway, and then from there, there's an agreement in place to be able to get certain assets, so that it doesn't come out of our tax rate from that perspective, but we're able to leverage the development that's coming in to be able to build that. And so with that being said, Patricia, did you have anything else to add when it comes to transportation? Okay, yeah, and then, we also have Cannon here. So Cannon, yeah, he's
because they're only bringing affordable housing, a large part of it, those fees are being waived. We see it on the agenda at City Council. We're waiving fees for them to be able to keep affordable housing. So then the infrastructure is not being built. So that's the issue here.
Yeah, and great comment on that. From a development services perspective, we did bring a subject matter expert to speak a little bit more on that to help clarify, but also talk about kind of what the state is when it comes to agreements.
So one of the things about development in this area, we're actually entering into development agreements, and we're using what we call rough proportionality instead of border streets. And so we're making sure that developers are paying for the streets and the improvements. In this area, there is a lot of growth that's happening. So there is a lot of rough proportionality. When I say rough proportionality, we're making sure that when that development comes in, they're paying their equitable share, not just from their border, but the equitable share maybe to an infrastructure in the sense of street lights or traffic signals and things of that nature. So based on that land type, that use, that trip generation, we're putting all that into the tool to make sure we hold them accountable for their development.
And then to close out, the purpose again that we're here today, if there is a specific project, there is a specific, say, network connection that you really want to see and a specific facility, we highly, highly, highly recommend that you do provide that input, because we will be sharing this information with Council Member Hall, as well as the rest of the council members as well. So if you have a specific project, there's something you want to see, go ahead and add that in there. And then also say, hey, if you had to swap something out, please share that as well, because we would hate to be the ones to only make those decisions in a silo, and your participation today as well as online can really make that difference and assist the city as a whole. So thank you all so much. I know it's about time, but we are going to open this back up for everyone just to kind of do one little final walk around, ask additional questions related to the propositions. There is a QR code that we'll put in place right here. There are the emails that you could reach out. And thank you all so much for taking time out of your day.